I want to start today with a scene that I think is playing out in probably 10 million kitchens right now.
I know this one.
It's the pizza standoff. It's 6 o'clock. You're exhausted. You look over at your teenager who's sort of fused to the couch, phone in hand,
Yep.
and you suggest, you might even plead a little that they just take the car and go get the pizza. It's a 10-minute trip.
And the look they give you, it's genuine, utter confusion. Like, why would I physically move my body when the food can just appear?
Exactly. And your brain, as a parent, it just immediately goes to this dark place. They're lazy. They have no grit.
When I was your age.
Right. I walked uphill both ways. It feels like a moral failing,
Yeah.
you know? But today, we're going to look at a source that argues we are looking at this all wrong.
We really are. We're diving into this really provocative article by Ryan Collison called DoorDash Kids Aren't Lazy, They're Friction Optimized.
Okay.
And I have to admit, this piece, it really made me check my own get off my lawn impulses.
Friction optimized. That sounds a little bit like engineering speak. Is that just a fancy excuse for kids not wanting to do chores?
I thought so too at first. I really did. But it's actually a really useful framework for understanding human behavior.
Okay.
Collison isn't saying kids are working harder physically. He's arguing that what looks like laziness to us is actually this radical, pretty sophisticated shift in how we manage cognitive load.
All right, let's define that before we go any further. Cognitive load.
It's basically the amount of brain power, the mental effort you need to complete a task.
Right.
And the core idea here is that every generation tries to reduce that load. So what we're seeing now isn't some kind of decay in work ethic. It's a sudden massive shift in friction tolerance.
So we're going to debunk this whole idea of generational decay and frame it as more of an evolution of efficiency.
Exactly. And to understand why your kid won't get the pizza, Collison says you have to look at the history of dinner. He breaks it down into 3 generations, and it's really fascinating.
Okay, let's walk through that. Because I think we all tend to glorify the past a bit. Let's start with Generation 1, the grandparents, the 60s or 70s.
Right. So picture your grandparents wanting to go out for a restaurant meal. This wasn't just getting calories.
No, it was an event with a capital E. You didn't just show up in sweatpants.
Absolutely not. First, there's the planning. No open table, no reviews online. You'd have to call, maybe days in advance.
Then the prep.
The prep. You dressed up, a suit and tie, a nice dress. Then the logistics. You're driving 45 minutes into the city. You're looking for parking.
And when you finally get there, you're basically on stage.
You are. You're managing table manners, making small talk with the staff, waiting 40 minutes for the food to be cooked.
So the cost wasn't just the money.
No, Collison's point is that the cost was an entire evening's worth of bandwidth, of mental energy.
But that friction, the driving, the waiting, it was just accepted.
It was the price of admission. Bandwidth was cheap because there were fewer things competing for it. You weren't like checking email under the table.
Okay, so that's the baseline. High friction, high engagement. Then comes Generation 2, the parents. Us.
The parents. And this is where the big shift starts.
Right.
Our generation, we introduced the drive-through.
The glorious 12-minute McDonald's run. But wait, we get criticized for that too, right? Fast Food Nation and all that.
True, but look at why it happened. It wasn't just because we loved burgers. It was an adaptation to a new economy.
Okay, right. Households where both parents were working.
Exactly. The time scarcity era had begun. Time was suddenly the most valuable resource. So what did we do?
We optimize.
We optimized. We traded the experience of a sit-down dinner for pure speed. We said, I don't have 4 hours for a dinner event. I have 20 minutes.
But we still had to do something. That's the key, right?
That is the key distinction. The friction was reduced, but there was still some friction. You still had to put on shoes, get in the car, talk to a person at a speaker box.
Who might get your order wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So we reduced the friction, but we didn't eliminate it.
Okay, and now, Generation 3, the DoorDash kid, the kid on the couch.
For this kid, the act of getting food has been completely, totally decoupled from physical effort.
Zero friction.
Zero friction. They open an app, tap, tap, done. The food just materializes at the door. They don't have to stop what they're doing. They don't engage in social performance. They don't even need shoes.
The article has this line that really got me. It says, from your kid's perspective, food appears with roughly the same cognitive cost as opening the refrigerator.
That's the whole insight. The cognitive cost is basically zero now. So the kid hasn't traded experience for speed like we did. They just refuse to pay the friction tax at all.
I love that term, friction tax. Let's just be clear on it.
The driving, the waiting, the ordering, that's all a tax on your time and energy. It doesn't make the pizza taste any better, right? It's just the overhead you pay.
And the app gets rid of the tax.
It eliminates the tax. So when you stand there saying, you're so lazy for not getting the pizza, what you're really asking is, why won't you pay this tax that you don't have to pay?
To me, it looks like building character. To them, it looks like insanity.
It does. Imagine I told you to go wash your clothes in the river instead of using the washing machine. You'd think I was crazy.
Right. Why would I do that?
That's how they feel about picking up food.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. But I have to play devil's advocate. It still feels soft. I mean, isn't there value in inconvenience? We learned patience waiting in those lines.
That's the perfect transition to the next point, the economy of ease. Because if we want to blame someone for this softness, we kind of need to look in the mirror.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Collison asks a really sharp question. Who built this world?
We did.
We did. The entire global economy for the last 20 years has been a massive multi-billion-dollar project to do one thing: eliminate friction.
I mean, when you put it like that,
Think about the biggest companies of our lifetime. Amazon,
one-click ordering. It made buying things way too easy.
right? Did they win because people wanted more steps between wanting a book and having it?
No, the opposite.
Exactly. What about Uber?
Remove the friction of hailing a cab, finding cash, all that hassle.
Netflix?
Beat Blockbuster because I didn't have to drive to the store and pray the movie was in stock.
See the pattern. Every single successful platform of the last 2 decades has the same value proposition. Fewer steps, less waiting, reduced cognitive load.
We built an entire civilization around friction removal.
We deployed it at scale. We made it the default for how the world works. And now we're surprised that kids raised in this system expect friction to be removed.
It's hypocritical.
It kind of is, isn't it? We spend billions to eliminate inconvenience. These kids aren't broken. They are, and this is a quote, calibrated to the environment we built for them.
That's a tough pill to swallow. We're mad at the product of our own design.
It changes the conversation from a moral failing to a systemic outcome. You can't raise a kid in a friction-free world and then get mad when they have no tolerance for friction.
Okay, fair point. We built the system. But here's where I still get stuck. Just because they're optimized doesn't mean they're doing anything useful that saved time.
Ah, yes. The staring at the wall theory.
Right. If you save 30 minutes by not getting pizza, but you spend that 30 minutes just mindlessly scrolling TikTok, is that really optimization? Or is it just sloth with better Wi-Fi?
This is where Collison brings up bandwidth reallocation. He argues that they're not doing nothing. The time they save on friction isn't lost, it's reallocated.
To what, though? Because watching a 15-second dance video doesn't feel like work.
It might not look like work to us, but if you actually watch what they're doing, the cognitive load is immense. They're managing.
Managing what?
Okay, take a typical teen on their phone. They might be managing multiple Discord servers at once.
And managing a Discord server isn't just like chatting.
No, it's really complex. It's moderation, social hierarchies, conflict resolution, keeping up with inside jokes that change by the hour.
Right.
They're maintaining streaks on various platforms, which is a kind of social currency. They're navigating social dynamics that are, frankly, more complex than most office politics.
It's the context switching. That's what gets me.
That's the real work. It's like being an air traffic controller for information. They are processing these high-demand flows and switching between them in seconds.
So the argument is they're not lazy. They're just mentally exhausted from a different kind of work.
Exactly. For our grandparents, the hard thing was logistics. The planning, the drive. For kids today, logistics are trivial. The new hard thing is managing parasocial relationships.
Parasocial, that's feeling connected to, like, an influencer who doesn't know you exist.
Exactly. Managing those feelings, curating their digital identity, processing this fire hose of information. The bandwidth they save on getting food goes toward the things the current world actually demands of them.
So we need to redefine hard work. We see it as physical effort. They see it as managing the data stream.
Precisely. You might not value what they're doing with that bandwidth, but that's a different argument from saying they're lazy. They're just solving the problems their environment is giving them.
And this mismatch shows up everywhere, right? The article brings up 2 things that drive parents insane: phone calls and grocery stores.
Oh, the phone call. This is the classic friction tolerance mismatch.
I have this fight constantly. Just call them. and you get this visceral reaction.
Like you ask them to disarm a bomb.
Yeah.
But if we look at it through this lens, when you say just call them, you're asking them to accept all this overhead that's totally unnecessary in their world.
What do you mean by overhead?
A phone call requires what we call synchronous attention. Both people have to be there at the same time.
It demands 100% of your focus.
Right. You can't really multitask. You have to do the whole, hi, how are you thing before you even get to the point. It's inefficient.
Whereas a text is asynchronous.
Exactly. I send it when I want, you read it when you want. It just delivers the information. So when you insist on the call, you think you're teaching a social skill. The kid just sees you forcing them to pay a time tax that doesn't need to be paid.
It's inefficient for the sake of tradition.
In their world.
Yeah.
Yes. And the grocery store is even more obvious. Go to the store and get some milk.
Which seems like a perfectly normal, responsible thing to ask.
To us it does. But to them, you're asking them to spend all this cognitive load on logistics, walking, finding the aisle, waiting in line, talking to a cashier that an app solves in seconds. It's just pure friction.
Wasted bandwidth?
Unless the goal is to teach them something specific, like how to pick good produce, the trip itself builds nothing.
There's a line in there about how parents are often teaching kids to pay costs that don't need to be paid based on nostalgia.
Ouch. That hits hard.
We're preparing them for the world we grew up in, not the one they actually live in.
Okay, but this brings us to the really big question. Does this mean all friction is bad? Should life just be effortless? How do they ever learn resilience?
This is the most important part of the whole argument. Collison makes a crucial distinction here between friction as cost and friction as training.
Okay, this sounds like the framework every parent needs. Break that down for us.
So friction as cost is the bad kind. This is the stuff that we should be optimizing away.
Like driving to the restaurant, standing in line at the DMV. It builds nothing. It doesn't make you a better person. It's just the price of admission. Avoiding that is smart.
Got it. And that's what kids are doing.
Right. But then there's friction as training. This is where the friction is the whole point. The struggle itself creates the value.
Okay, give me some examples.
Learning a musical instrument. You can't DoorDash learning the piano.
Right.
The friction of the struggle, the endless repetition, that is how the skill gets built.
Physical training is the same way.
Exactly. You can't hire someone to lift the weights for you. The friction of the weight against gravity is what builds the muscle. Remove the friction, you remove the growth.
Deep relationships, too, I would think.
A huge one. You can't automate trust. You have to go through the messy, inefficient friction of getting to know someone, having arguments, repairing them. That's good friction.
So the parenting takeaway isn't just let them be lazy.
No. And it's also not force them to do things just because they're hard. The advice is stop fighting the DoorDash battle. That's just nostalgia for inconvenience.
And if you fight them on that, you just look irrational.
You do. Instead, identify the friction that's developmental. Kids shouldn't have to walk uphill both ways in the snow for no reason, but they should learn to do hard things on purpose to build capacity.
Focus on the instrument, the sport, the difficult conversation.
That's valuable friction. The drive to McDonald's, let it go.
It's about being selective with struggle. It's not a virtue in itself. It's only a virtue if it leads to growth.
And realizing that just because something was hard for us doesn't mean it should be hard for them. Progress is supposed to remove unnecessary hardship.
So where does this go? I mean, if this is a real trend, where does it end?
Well, Collison ends with a look to the future. He predicts your grandkids will look at today's app friction and find it quaint and inefficient.
Wait, app friction? You mean tapping a screen is too much work?
Think about it. You have to unlock your phone, find the app, scroll, tap a button, and then wait 20 whole minutes.
Oh, wow. When you put it that way, it does sound exhausting.
To a future generation, that will seem incredibly manual. They'll say, you had to open an app. Why didn't the AI just know you were hungry and have a drone drop a burrito on your lap?
It's humbling to think we're going to be the slow ones.
The vector is set. Technology reduces friction. That's what it does. So the question isn't, how do we go back? That never works.
The question is?
The question is, what are we going to do with all the bandwidth we've freed up?
I love that. It frames it as an opportunity and not a loss.
Exactly. Your kids aren't lazy. They're just the first generation to take this friction collapse for granted. They have more free cognitive space than anyone in history.
So the challenge for all of us, for them, is making sure that space is filled with something meaningful.
That's the challenge. If they use that space to build, to create, to solve bigger problems, then this is a huge win for humanity. If they just use it to consume, That's the risk.
It's a fascinating perspective shift. It takes the heat out of the lazy kid fight and turns it into a design challenge.
Intelligence applied to constraint removal. That's all it is.
Well, I'm definitely going to look at that DoorDash order a little differently tonight. I might still ask them to set the table, though. That's frictionless training, right?
I think you can make a case for that. Social contribution is definitely a skill.
There we go. So to recap, we looked at the 3-generation friction shift, how the economy trained our kids for this, debunked the myth of them doing nothing, and drew that crucial line between friction as cost and friction as training.
And hopefully given everyone permission to stop fighting the wrong battles.
So here's the final thought we want to leave you with from the source material. The direction is set. Friction will keep collapsing. We can't stop it. The only question that matters is, what are you and your kids going to build with the cognitive space that has opened up?
That's the real work.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.